much, and thank you for the invitation to be here and the opportunity to talk about the opportunity of this e-global delay. I'm Jake Colvin, Executive Director of the Global Innovation Forum based in Washington, D.C. Global Innovation Forum connects entrepreneurs with government officials and with larger corporations to explore the opportunities to be global from day one in the internet age, and then to help articulate the challenges and figure out solutions, public policy solutions to solving those challenges. The opportunity to be global these days is immediate. It's new, it's unprecedented. 10 years ago, you couldn't be a startup and have a global presence from day one. This is going to be evident today, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the global journeys from all of the startups that are here with us. But global markets also bring challenges. High tariffs, complying with regulations that differ across different jurisdictions, protecting your intellectual property rights effectively on a global basis, accessing the internet on an open, secure, and reliable basis, obtaining financing, and finding local partners. And then if you're a startup in Taipei or Santiago or Atlanta, you probably have dramatically fewer resources to deal with these challenges than if you're a corporation like Intel or Siemens. But then there are also resources out there that can help startups maximize their global opportunity. Economies and governments have programs like this one. There's an effort in Washington, D.C. Through U.S. Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker called Startup Global, which the Global Innovation Forum is happy to be a corporate partner with, which pairs government officials and corporations with startups at incubators across the United States to emphasize the government resources and the private sector resources that are available to help startups go global. Corporations like Siemens and Intel provide partnerships, mentorships, and financing to startups who are looking to go global. And the other thing that we found is, as we go across the world talking with startups, is that other entrepreneurs serve an important role. They can provide lessons on their global journeys when they're farther ahead, and they can provide advice on creating visibility strategies to get yourself noticed to these corporations and understand how to effectively leverage corporate and government resources. So what I wanted to do today was have a discussion about this global opportunity that exists, try to identify some of the challenges, and then understand how maybe how economies can and programs like this can help. I was going to begin by turning to Ms. Judy Reinke, who is the Deputy Director General of the U.S. Foreign Commercial Service at the Department of Commerce in Washington, D.C. And if I have this right, she's also the longest-serving senior diplomatic official at the Commerce Department, which is no small feat. And so, Judy, I wonder if you could describe the opportunities that you see to be global in the digital age, and then maybe some of the challenges and how economies and governments can address those challenges.
Thank you, Jake. Actually, I'd love to do that. And in fact, I prepared a couple of remarks, but this is really to begin the conversation. The name of this panel reflected the digital economy opportunities and challenges, and I think it's a fabulous way to begin this Accelerator network, because unless you really understand the context, we can't look at the individual contestants in isolation. First of all, thank you for including me. I feel a little out of place. I'm not an entrepreneur like many of you in the audience. I'm a government official, but I'm one that very much deeply appreciates what you're doing to grow the future. And I certainly hope that for my part, for my government's and my department's part, we can do something to help you succeed in a exciting digital future. What I wanted to share to begin with was a study that my staff and I came across from the U.S. University Tufts that was printed in the Harvard Business Review recently. What's interesting about this is how this very short study began to look at both this opportunities and challenges question and the factors that make economies successful. It's important that you know which economies are successful, because for many of you, I think many of you are from the startups. I see these guys over here in red shirts. You're definitely from a startup, right? We're going to see you later. You want to know where to succeed. I don't know if you know, there's a movie from the United States. You're probably too young. There was a movie in 1996 called Jerry Maguire. And any of you who know the movie know what the tagline of the main character was. And the character said, "Show me the money." And that's what you want. You want to know where the opportunity is. You know, forget the rest. And so this particular study was looking at the economies that were succeeding and those that were actually not succeeding. They were recognizing that the growth of the 7 fastest growing emerging markets, which are China, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Mexico, Russia, and Turkey. Those 7 emerging markets now are larger than the G7 in terms of purchasing power parity. Show me the money, right? And that the consumers in the Asia-Pacific region are now expected to spend more online than consumers in North America. That's another Jerry Maguire moment. Hence, the fact that we're here within an APEC economy in the Asia-Pacific region, it's very vital to the future of the digital age. The Tough team also found another Jerry Maguire moment. It was how economies are overcoming challenges. They gave a good example, and I like this one, so I thought I'd throw it out to you. They looked at the startups in India, and I think we do have a few Indian contestants in the startup challenge here the next 2 days. Now, you're familiar with some of these big names that are coming out of India, Snapchat and Flipkart. I mean, remember a decade ago? Never heard about that. This is part of what you're saying. It's happening fast. But in the summer of 2014 alone, $3 billion in private equity flowed into India to just 200 startups. That's a huge amount of money. So following the money means something. It means that you should be following where the big money is going. It's another way to find success in the digital age. I worked and lived in India, so I actually know what a challenge it can be. And the example that the Tough study looked at is, how can you be successful in the digital economy, in a market where 90% of transactions are on a cash basis? It seems like it wouldn't work in the digital age. And yet, small, medium-sized businesses, startups in India are finding a workaround. They're going kind of back to the past, another movie title, and they're going to a cash-on-delivery model so that they can actually integrate digital transactions and hard cash payments. And the startups are flourishing in India. So I bring this up to point out that the digital economy is all about finding solutions to incredibly challenging problems so that companies like yours can succeed. Now, the other part about the study and I don't mean to spend all the time on this study, but there were some interesting learnings, and I actually would encourage you to take a look at it. The study looked at something called the Digital Evolution Index to help people like you identify which markets work for you. They looked at the markets that were standouts, stallouts, breakouts, and watchout. Now, standouts are countries that have a high level of digital development, both in the past and a continuing trajectory to grow in the future. Stallouts are ones that achieve digital economy success and now are losing momentum and are falling behind. Breakouts. Breakouts are exciting economies that are putting the pieces together and they're moving ahead. They could be standouts in the future. And watch out. Now, watch outs definitely watch out. These are ones that have a slow digital acceptance rate and they're not moving forward. Now, again, what does it mean for the startups in the room? Figure out both the standouts and the breakouts, but watch out. Watch out for those economies that are falling behind. Key influences that might affect the economy that you're looking at and to do business with. Could be the things that Jake just referred to. These could be the status of supply chain infrastructure. It could be the degree of consumer sophistication for the digital economy. It could be how financial transactions are transacted on the digital platforms, like in the case of India, how they addressed a predominantly cash economy. And of course, the degree to which access to the internet is fully enabled. But the main obstacles that prevent countries from tapping into the digital economy is really the degree of commitment to digital reform. And that's what I'm going to stop on for a moment. An economy that restricts the flow of data can seriously undermine your ability to succeed in the digital world. Another could be server localization. A policy like that might mean that a desktop computer serving as a server could be a violation of local laws. That's kind of a chilling thought when you, as a small business, have a great idea. This is why my economy, the United States, is trying to help launch something that we refer to as the Digital Economy Initiative within APEC. It's an effort to try to get the small and medium-sized enterprise working group to identify the regulations and the barriers that are in your way, that are keeping you from succeeding. The whole litany of localization, market access limits, data privacy, things you're probably not thinking about when you are trying to market and monetize a great idea. Those are things we as economies, we as government folks need to take care of because we want you to succeed. We've done our own analysis in the United States. If we were able to reduce these kinds of barriers, our gross domestic product could rise in a year by 0.3%, which is $41 billion. This is not insignificant. In other words, it matters to us. But we do want this kind of digital liberalization to occur in all APEC economies. It's not just about the US. Now, I'm going back to that digital evolution index so that I can turn the mic back to you, Jake. I'm guessing you probably want to know where the United States falls. I'm just kind of guessing that because it is, it's intriguing, and that's why I asked you to take a look at that little study that was in Harvard Business Review. I am proud to say that the United States does fall into the standout category, so I'm excited. But you know what I noticed? It actually is kind of low. Yes, standout, but I don't want to stall out. And of course, none of your economies would want to do the same. So let me just comment and turn this back to you, Jake. We are still seized with the idea of improving our digital economy credentials. Just this month, my department released an e-commerce guide to help small businesses understand how to put up an e-business and how to succeed. We're also in the planning stages for a digital economy e-commerce lab. The details are to be announced within the next couple of months, but it should be a platform to help small businesses get guidance. I would encourage such steps for every member of APEC in order to ensure that your companies know where to turn for help. I want to thank Chinese Taipei for being the first economy to echo and endorse the digital trade initiative that I referred to earlier. I thank them for that. I also want to thank Chinese Taipei for being the host of the APEC Accelerator network. What I expect here is that small businesses can go back to the business of innovating, creating new ideas, and creating the future economy. And we, the government folks, we're going to let you do that by ensuring that you have free and open digital markets. So that's how I want to start the conversation, Jake. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. I think one of the things that we find as we talk with startups around the world is that basic transparency and availability of information is a huge deal, and so it gets to the points that you just made there. I think one of the really neat things about the group that has been assembled on the stage this morning is that there's a mix of government, corporation, and startup voices here, and so I wanted to turn to the corporate voices next. Maybe start with Ken Asada to my far left, who is the investment director with Intel Capital based in Japan. So Ken, could you provide some tips from your expertise about investing in global startups for the group?
Okay, hear me? Okay. Could you show my presentation slide? Okay, next slide, please. So I'd like to share my first-hand experience of investing and supporting global startups. So next slide, please. So we invested in a company, you can see here, named Gengo in 2012, 3 years ago. And this company is one of the few Japan-based startups that operates globally. So I'd like to share some tips and hints and day-to-day activity that I learned by interacting with founders of this company. So let me briefly introduce the company. The company was founded by two non-Japanese founders, Matthew Romaine. Actually, he is half Japanese and half US. And Robert Lane from Australia. And they had headquarters in Tokyo and San Mateo in California. And they hire 14 members from 14 different countries. And their business is to provide online translation service. And the service, translation service itself is done by 60,000 translators in 138 countries. So this is global, very global. And this is only, you can only available this type of business model in this digital economy. And customers base is also global. As you can see familiar names on the screen. And investors are from 6 countries. They got a seed investment from 500 startups from US, and Series A by Atomico from UK, and Series B by us, Intel, from US. And recently they closed Series C round, which was led by Recruit from Japan. So this is, yes, so from here, I'd like to share some tips for building up the foundation for global startups. So the first point is very clear and simple. So your business model or technology has to have a potential to compete in a global setting. And also, you need to have a good management team that is capable enough to operate global business effectively. So we always see these points when we consider investment at the investment committee. And actually, Gengo satisfied these 2 points. And the next is you must have a right investor for you, for your company. And I think this is the most important things you should consider. And if you have a vision of going global, I would recommend you make an extra effort and research to find the investors who can share same philosophy and vision of your company. And also, investor network is also important. And I would like to hear from Tom about this later. But as is, in many cases, startup founders' personal business network is limited when a company goes to global. So you must find investors with good global network. Then they will help you find business partner, potential customers, and future investors for your additional funding round. And the third point is, once you set up the local overseas office, first thing you need to do is to hire a good talent from local market. So in Gengo case, they set up a US office after the foundation of the company in Japan. And for example, both Gengo founders are native English speakers. And one founder, current CEO, Matthew Romaine, was raised in US and graduated from university in US. But they didn't have experience of working in the States, so they didn't have business network in the States. So initially they had a very difficult time to reach a good candidate pool when they hire people in the US. And they had time, and they also had a hard time to find and select the best people from that pool. So, but 500 startups helped them a lot when they set up the US office. And having 500 startups in the investor list led to Series A by Atomico, and Atomico also introduced the company to us, and we invested. So it's like a network chain by the investor. And the last point you should consider is culture. So I'll talk about two culture things. So the first one is after you set up the headquarters in your home country and set up local overseas office in somewhere, founders should pay close attention to foster and maintain a unique corporate culture in your company across the geography. So this is very important things, and it will actually bear some additional cost to communicate with overseas offices. But the company founders and also investors should understand this is a necessary cost to operate effective global operations. And the last is founders, and especially the management in headquarters, should understand the difference of the business culture by country. So for example, in Japan, B2B sales cycle is relatively long. It's very long. And it's not rare it takes 1 year to convince customer to buy your product or service. And customers prefers face-to-face meeting rather than phone call or video conference. And relationship does matter. So it may seem inefficient from outside, but once it's done, once relationship is built, the relationship becomes very, how do I say, very stable, very sticky, and lasting one. So then you can expect repeat orders from those customers for a long time. So management and founders in headquarters should take those differences into consideration when making business judgment. So I think, yes, I know there are a lot of things to consider when our startups goes to global, but the points I mentioned now is what I think is important from my experience.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ken. So we've gotten to know one of their, I guess, competitors in the field called Unbabel, which is based in Portugal. It's a translation service as well. And one of the things that they told us was that, at the heart of it is you need to remember to have empathy, to be empathetic for the way, for people's needs, and to understand that people work differently and think differently around the world, and you need to be able to understand that in order to do business effectively. I wanted to turn now to Mr. Shih-Ping Liou, who's the General Manager of Technology to the Shanghai Business Center for Siemens China. And from Siemens' perspective, could you describe your approach to partnerships with startups?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me into this panel. It's my third time to be here. I was born in Taiwan and grew up in Taiwan, living in the States for about 20 plus years, and then Shanghai for the last 10 plus years. So we started to work closely with Taiwanese startup companies about 2 years ago. And it was really made quite good progress in the sense of finding many opportunities here. So let me start by saying a little bit about the Intel. We also, Siemens has a venture capital group, but we also have a very unique organization. It's an organization I'm part of. It's the technology to business, because in the TTB approach, we use the partnership concept. And partnership and investment are two different vehicles that we use to work with startup companies. So what is our mission? Our mission is very simple. We want to bring external innovation into Siemens by finding all the possible ways to collaborate in that process through the partnership. So if you look at Siemens as a company, we are a platform company. So basically, you can imagine there are many ways that can work with Siemens. One way is you have a technology that help improve the performance or reliability of Siemens products. So that's definitely one possibility. And the other is that if the technology is part of the core business of Siemens, we'll be interested also to work with them to co-develop the technology. And the third, which is also very interesting for us, we start to look into that more closely, is the downstream. So if you look at the technology that uses our platform and or to create a new demands or different requirements for our platform, and in a market that we are not in, that would be something we'd be very interested. So there are many, many ways that we interact with the startup companies. And so what we do, typically we look around, we have established a local ecosystem. So we'll work with incubators, venture capital firms, government organizations to identify interesting and promising startup companies, and that has relevance to Siemens business. When I say relevance, I mean the in a much broader sense, relevance. And then we will do next is we try to identify the technology and the business model gaps. Because typically there is a gap between what the startup has to offer and what Siemens business would be looking for. And as you know that in majority of the businesses, Siemens are either number one or number two. So we do have very high expectation in terms of the technology that we want to work with. So first to identify the gaps, and if after identify the gaps we feel that it's still very interesting, then what we do is we will work with the startup company, TTB organization, to help bridge the gap, and to a point that we can present the technology or the business model to the Siemens business units. And then, of course, before we do that, we already contact them to get their initial inputs. So our job is really to help the startup company to bridge their technology and business gap, to find a person in the Siemens business unit that they can talk with, because it's also very difficult for small companies to get to know how to interact with a large company like Siemens. And then, in order to do that well, we have a global setup. So we have a first office in Silicon Valley, as it was established already in 1999. And remember, this was the year that was even before the establishment of the concept called open innovation. Because open innovation was officially made known around 2000 or 2001. And Siemens was already 2 years before that. So we were very, very advanced and forward-looking, if you were to say. Because we realized very much at that time that no matter how much you do in Siemens, you're still limited in the sense that you still want to look for outside to see what is really available, what can really help Siemens, and also, of course, help the startup company as well at the same time. That's why we established the office in Silicon Valley already in 1999. And the Shanghai office was established in 2005. So I moved from US to Shanghai, and we set up the office in Shanghai. And then the Munich office was set up the last, which was in 2012. So we have a really global setup. As you probably all know, that there are very different characteristics of these three regions. For example, everybody knows that Siemens, as in Germany, is very good engineering. So, and often we over-engineer a lot of things. But the quality, the reliability of Siemens product is well known to everybody. So Germany has a very strong engineering capabilities. And China, or the Greater China region, we have a very good supply chain. So if you want to do anything, you can easily find a complete supply chain here. And then particularly in China, it has a big market in the sense, it's a market that you can actually launch your product before your product is officially, or you feel you are completely ready. Because you can get a lot of feedbacks already from the market before you actually figure out what direction you want to go. And US, of course, is very simple. You have a lot of creativity there. You have a very strong Silicon Valley ecosystem, and you have a lot of money, the venture capitals there. So this is very simple. So in our way, our thinking is we'd like to leverage these three locations and take technology or startup from anywhere in the world, and then leverage these three locations, the strength of the three locations, and then develop the technology from Siemens perspective, into Siemens use. But from the startup perspective, help startup to go global. So this is basically our approach. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Shih-Ping. We were talking earlier that I think you serve an extremely useful role within your company, as I suspect you do, Ken, as well, which is acting as a translator between startups and entrepreneurs, and then your corporates themselves, which is not always easy to navigate. So now I want to turn now to Tom, Mr. Hong-Geng Tom Lin, who's the founder of HyXen Technology Company. Tom and I got to know each other in Atlanta earlier this year for a preliminary, I guess, competition in preparation for today. This is an exciting time for you. Foscom has invested now, I guess, it's been about 10 months. And so I wonder, could you tell us a little bit about HyXen and give us an update since the investment?
Okay, thank you. Let me get the water. Okay, good morning, everybody. Anyone heard about HyXen before? Okay, that's my employee, so. So we are such a small company, and it's a great honor for me to stay here with those big, great company together to present my small startup. Okay, then why I'm founding the HyXen technology? I think we just feel the earthquakes, right? Back to the 1999, the September 21st. Taiwan had the biggest earthquakes, right? The TV reporter came to me saying, how can we find the people being buried under the building, or being something we can prevent it for later on? I said, no, that's impossible, because at that time, the location service cannot, fulfill that gap. But when the year 2010, we have a big flood in south part of Taiwan. We call the Baba Suizai, means the big flood. The whole village being destroyed, being buried, and a lot of people cannot find it. I told a lot of people saying we can help that. That's the reason why I starting to fund my company, try to create some technology can help in this planet or these countries. So I starting to collecting the location database. That's a big data. I started from scratch. I know that's important for mobile service. That's 6 years ago. We call it mobile service 1.1. After that, but by protecting our technology, I filed the IP. So we created a lot of innovative application to prove those technology is workable, is valuable, is business ready for later on. So year 2012, we have a fourth commercial platform ready into the market. It's called AdLocus. It's a mobile advertising network we've been created. So we so-called that's the mobile service 2.0. Then, the following years, we're adding the mobile e-commerce into our platform. Because the mobile service, you need to have a real e-commerce capability along with. At the same time, we create a real O2O business model with all the major corporate. Okay? So this year is exciting years for HyXen because we got a Foxconn invest in the early years. The reason why we select Foxconn as a first investor because we have a lot of things we can leverage. That's so-called how we can co-op with a big company by using your strengths. Okay. Okay, I'm going to address a little bit detail. So we try to create a called a mobile service 4.0, and with the real O2O2O. Probably you are the first time to hear that. We call it on air, to online, and to offline. A lot of people, you're on air. So every mobile guys, mobile user, on air. How to grab the people on air into your online, on your service, then have them ask them, convince them to consuming anything you provided, the service you're going to provide it. So that's called O2O2O. So exciting. Those companies we are working with this year, you will see a lot of activity either later this year or early next year. I'm going to address a little detail later on. So the golden circle for the HyXen means we try to create some unique technology to helping this environment, and especially helping people that need help. So around this circle, we have application, we have platform, we have e-commerce, social network, all kinds of services we try to provide to target customers. Okay, so we have over 30 applications, so all kinds of perspectives. We got some recognitions, but the most important thing is we have a lot of big data with the behaviors, analytics data. That becomes the fundamentals of the mobile network basis. Okay. So that's our network. The beauty is we are not just providing one kind of in-app app. We also have a lot of push or location-based push. That's not enough. But you do have something linked with all the worldwide network, increase your capacity or RTV, DS capability. Also, you need to have incentives, capability to attract the end user, consumer, to really using your service, but get a reward. And this year, we created some called the big bands. The advertisers, they don't need to concern about the CTR, concern about the CTC, CTM kind of models. Because once you get a notice at the right time at the right place, you already need it. So that's over 100% of CTR. So that's an example. So in Taiwan, we have over 30,000 third-party application developer into our network because we're helping them to increase their income, so they can continue to create some innovation service along using our network. Yes, you can inhabit all kinds of different fields in our network. So in worldwide, we have a lot of different partners. Key is from Japan. That's a big company in Japan in technology, venture capital, and there are a lot of collaborators is license our SDK, and all the 4A agents, promoting our products. It's a more, major brand using our platform. And recently, 2 weeks ago in Hong Kong, that's a big announcement. AB Group holding company, that's the public company in Hong Kong, helping us to promote our first products at log to Hong Kong, the south part of Asia. not just the advertising business model, also smart home, smart life kind of business will be following. So exciting for HyXen right now, okay? So besides that, how you can do it with your own technology? You know, around our environment, there are weak, you know, handicapped, elder peoples, and handicapped peoples. They still need to survive every day. They're still consuming a lot of stuff. So we help them to, you know, we provide a different platform to help them to, you know, get a, you know, take care about their living life and take care of everybody. So those platforms we are trying to deliver to the related customer as well. So by using our different platform and help them to get, you know, we call it real social network corporations. Okay, a lot of things. This is very exciting for us as well. Space. Anyone heard about space? This summer is very big news in San Francisco. You know, SoftBank and Alibaba jointly announced that space IoT ecosystem. And the key is one of the major cloud computing behind this. And very luckily, the HyXen mobile locus location API being selected part of the partner as well. So a lot of IoT customers in either China or Taiwan and the other country come to us saying, try to cooperate with us to try to create real end-to-end mobile service models into the markets. So all the panels, device, mobile device, they can work with us. That's the reason why Foxconn's 11 screens strategy work with us. It's work with us. So there are a few divisions already come to us, see how we can get closer with them and bring the more consolidated service into the market very soon, okay? And most important thing is, cloud computing is not, you know, working everybody because of privacy protecting. So Fox computing, that's very important for small enterprise, you know, small group to protect privacies. So we are working with some the world-class company called GR to try to bring those business models into the market very soon. So one of the major IoT, you know, societies are called IOV. All the moving vehicle, they need a really in-depth service into your life. So we are working with a few big corporates to bring some unique service into the market very soon. Okay. So HyXen level, a lot of different service model mature into market is something like the recipe. We are ready to work with every single customer to bring the smart life, smart city, smart chain store. That's something we are working with right now. So expecting more activity from HyXen. Okay. So that's a few examples. That's the big smart ship store in the downtown Taipei. We help them to bring the real O2O business model with the indoor beacon locations service. This is a smart hotel. That's late last year started with they building the hotels from scratch. We help them to build the hardware along with the software. They're going to launch very soon as well. Okay. And the TV home shopping, bring the TV shopping from home to mobile. And all the famous shopping mall, we are working with the indoor location and the mobile e-commerce. And this is another smart mobile commerce. We're going to bring is, we call the substitute driver or auto service. You will see some exciting service in local, then go to the global. So that's the thing we want to do, CSR. Okay. Okay, so HyXen got a lot of the recognitions, but that's not the result. We want to bring really innovations service into the market, helping this environment. A lot of big companies been spend a lot of money to invest either indoor, outdoor, or mobile ad. But we are such a small company, only 30 people. So we have everything. And we try to bring the innovation mobile service 4.0 with really O2O service model. So all the startup come to join us, and we can bring something beautiful service into the market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. And congratulations. It is an exciting time for you. So I know we're running behind schedule, and I figured I would ask one question of the panelists right now, open up the floor to see if there are any questions from the audience, and plan to try to wrap up around 11:30, 11:35. If the organizers think that's not a good idea, then someone should come up and pass me a note. Tom, I'm going to let you catch your breath, but I do want you to answer this question, but maybe I can turn first to Judy or to the two of you. What challenges do you see as top of mind for smaller companies as they seek to access the global marketplace? And I mentioned some of them to start with, but are these challenges universal? Are they the same that bigger companies face?
Well, I don't know that I'm always the best resource for the specifics. I can give you the generalities from the government's perspective in the U.S. It is knowledge. The small companies know what they know, and generally that is the idea, the need, the pain point that they're trying to address, sort of the revolutionary concept that they're bringing to market. But they don't know what they don't know, which is, where the markets are, the things I was referring to, or what the barriers are. Sometimes it's things as simple as what the tariff is if they're crossing a border, and it's something that's not thought about when you first start a business. So I actually feel that there's a role for the APEC Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise Working Group that I've made reference to share resources, because the easier it is for any individual here to know where to call to get information, or specifically where to go online to get information, the faster they can bring that new concept to market.
Ken or Shih-Ping?
Yes, I think the biggest challenge is to access to your potential business partner or potential customers, and sometimes investors. So Intel is supporting this kind of events, and this APEC Challenge event is a good example of our sponsorship activities. And also, after the investment, we are supporting our portfolio company to reach to the global companies who have interest in working with startups. So the program is called ITD, Intel Technology Days, and our business development team in Intel Capital is always looking for global companies, like we did with Microsoft, Toyota, GM, BMW, Lenovo, and Shell, and etc. And we hold this kind of matching event 70 times in a year. So this brings a huge benefit for those startups who wants to engage with big corporates.
Shih-Ping?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, TTB is definitely the organization to help all the startups to solve or to address some of these issues. But generally speaking, I think you will need to have a global supply chain. That's going to be tough, because if you're a local company, for example, in Taiwan, any other country, to go global, you first have to deal with the supply chain issues. And second, you also need to deal with sales channel, because to find the right sales channel in the country you're not in or in other countries, that's also going to be a big challenge. I think the most important thing from my perspective is, in the industrial perspective, is you don't necessarily have the domain knowledge and domain know-how. When you look at from just a narrow perspective, you miss a lot of points, and then a large company like Siemens would definitely be able to provide you with that kind of information to help you position yourself in a better way, in a more effective way, when you decide to go global. Thank you.
And Tom, I mean, you mentioned all of those partnerships. What are the challenges that you face?
Okay, I think my challenge is more practical right now because I've been going through that, since 10 months with Foxconn. But the most important thing, you have to prioritize the requirement from those big company, big investors. So they probably have a 10 group come to you. How you can select the right one for, and helping you to shorten, revenue. That's very important for you. And also the mention about the resource, how you go to global. We are not trying to build every local, resource by our own. We have to using the local strengths and cooperate with them. The same thing like the third-party, developer, because we have higher profit sharing with them, they're willing to join our group. So that's a win-win situations. So we have a same strategy in each country, each partner right now, even the Foxconn. Thank you.
So I have more questions, but I think it's better if we open up the floor. If there is a question, please raise your hand and identify yourself. No questions. All right. Well, let me ask one more then. For each one of you, I'd like you to think about a forum that you would recommend or would like to flag for the audience here. I mean, you've got a number of people in the audience here who are startups, who need advice, who would like to do more of this, to network and get to know the corporate community, the policy community, and the startup community. So I suspect for the two of you, this will be forums that you're affiliated with. So could you emphasize or identify one forum that the audience should take a look at, and then maybe you could identify a government forum, and you could mention one that's been mentioned already. And for you, has there been a startup forum that you particularly appreciated? So Ken, maybe we'll start with you. A forum or something maybe that you sponsor, a gathering.
Yeah, so for example, as I said, we do a lot of program for our portfolio company, but before our investment as you guys startups, Intel from time to time host special events or programs. For example, this April we announced Intel Education Accelerator program, so which is for education technology startups, and we received 200 applications from worldwide. So we sometimes do that kind of special program for startups. So please watch out and check it out, and I encourage you to apply those kind of program if you see that.
Shih-Ping?
Yes. We've been running a program called the New Ventures Forum. It's actually a 2-day program. We invited several startups, normally like 10 to 15 companies, to come over. And then in that 2-day program, we help the startup to fine-tune their pitches, their positioning, and we help them to understand how to work with large companies like Siemens and what to expect and what really to avoid and those kind of things. And mostly from the startup perspective, we try to give you some of the advice based on our experiences. So these are the events this New Venture Forum we run in all 3 locations and year. And then recently we also started to work with professional accelerators to have the industrial focus accelerator program. In that case, we identify a batch of companies, normally 10, and then to work with. And then in that process is a more systematic way because it included the typical accelerator program, which is about 3 to 4 months. And plus on top of that, we have a coach. We coach the companies. We help them to develop their or modify or customize their technology to create a proof of concept then start to engage the discussion with our business units. Hopefully within 3 to 4 months, we want to identify how the startup company could collaborate, in what way, from the perspective of technology and business, and then use the 6 months afterwards to trying to realize that plan.
Judy?
See, we're getting the time's up sign here, so I'll make mine short. We did make reference to, under the APEC umbrella, that there are various gathering places. This is sometimes harder for startups or small and medium-sized enterprises because it involves travel expenses. But we did have a successful supply chain summit in Atlanta, which you've made reference to as a wonderful networking opportunity. So I'd pitch that. On a more direct basis, I'm sorry, I'm going to pitch something that relates to the U.S. Government. We offer matchmaking services for companies that want to be in touch with American firms. So in that case, reference to the American Institute in Taiwan in the commercial section for making partnerships. Something you mentioned is a need to find partners, customers.
And the Commerce Department has a wonderful thing called the Select USA Tech service, which is the partnership. Yep.
Okay, so last 6 years we have been attend a lot of different competition, forum or seminars, but we did gain a lot of name recognitions. But most important thing is how we can get a real business right after that. So luckily we attend Atlanta this summer, and also we volunteer to attend this one as well because we want to sponsor something, service with this startup, help them to how to exposure by using our service. So we are try to help each other. So that's how you can attend the different forum, get a connection, get a partnership, and grow together. That's the main principle for us. Thank you.
Great. Well, we're out of time. Please join me in thanking our speakers here.
And thank you very much, Mr. Jake Colvin, for leading this session, and all the panelists. Thank you very much again. Thank you. And please take a group photo all together. Thank you again, Ms. Reinke, Mr. Asada, Mr. Liou, Mr. Lin, for your sharing of the experience and insights. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen,